Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a lab, and we need a spreadsheet with formulas so we don't have to recalculate stuff. So go to New, and we're going to make a Google spreadsheet. And click OK if that should pop up. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to change the title. So this is going to be a collision lab. So if you double click on that, it'll open up rename the spreadsheet. Now what I want you to name it is Collisions Lab 2. Okay? So double click on the upper left hand corner where it says Untitled Spreadsheet, and you'll get this little rename thing, and then you click OK. So did everybody get that? Yeah. Everybody's okay with that? And then we click OK. Now the first thing that we want to do is we're going to create 2 spreadsheets, and so I'm going to put some titles and some labels in there. So we're going to type in red cart, okay, and for the red cart we're going to measure some things. The first thing that we're going to measure is the mass of the cart, and then the next thing that we're going to measure is the velocity of the cart, and then we're going to measure the momentum. Okay. And we'll add some more stuff here. Now, we're going to do an initial measurement and a final measurement. So under red cart, you're going to put initial. Whoops, you got to spell it right. Then under that, you're going to put final. Okay. And then we're going to leave that there. Now, the other thing that we can do is we're going to come back and add some stuff. So what I want, like, we have to do the exact same thing for the blue cart. So one way you could kind of cheat is if you click on where it says red cart and hold the mouse down, or you could grab this little corner here. If you drag it to highlight everything, all these corners, it takes a second. It doesn't want to cooperate with us. Whoops. On command. So another way to do it is if you hold the shift key down and move the arrow cursor. Oh, it doesn't want to cooperate today. There it goes. I don't know why it didn't want to do that. Maybe you should start in the lower right hand corner, because if you just drag that down, it copies the formula. Now once it's highlighted, does everybody have theirs highlighted like mine? If you hit Control C, it'll copy it, and then you can just come down here. Give yourself a little space, so maybe come down 1, 2. Actually, you know what? Well, no, I guess it doesn't matter. Let's come down here to number 8, cell number 8. So you want to be an A, comma 8, or A8. It's not A, comma 8. It's A8. Then hit Control V, and it'll copy that for you. Actually, you know what? We'll recopy that again. So if you hit Control Z, it'll delete that. So now what we're going to do is I want to, we're going to put some numbers in. So whatever the mass is here, it should be the same here. Okay? So rather than put the mass in a gazillion times, we're going to make a formula to where whatever this is, that's what this cell will be too. So B is just going to receive something, but B3 is going to equal B2. Now, the way that you do that is make sure that you're in B3, and then click up here. Now, if you hit the equal sign on your keyboard, then take your cursor to where B2 is, click on B2, then just hit Enter. Now to check to see if it works, if you go to B2, I'm going to enter in 3. When I hit Enter, notice what happens. See how that works? All right. Now, for the velocity, we're not going to do that. But how do we calculate momentum? Mass times velocity. So click on the cell D2, then come up here to formula, and we're going to hit equals. Then you're going to choose B2. Okay. Then it's Shift 8, which gives you the multiplication symbol. Then you're going to click on the velocity where we would normally enter in the velocity number. So it should say equals B2 times C2. You guys with me so far? All right. Then hit enter. Now the reason it's saying 0 is because I don't have a number in here. So to test it and make sure it works, I'm going to put 5. What's 3 times 5? So if I hit enter, it should work, right? All right, good. Now, see how this says B2 times C2? Here's a little trick that we could do. If I click on this little arrow, or this little corner, see how that's got the little blue square? It's not an arrow, it's a square. And then it turns into a crosshair. If I click on that and drag that down, it will copy and paste the formula. So now what that does is if I click on, whoops, I can't click on anything else. Here, see how it automatically changed it to B3 times C3? So if I were to put 4 in here, what would I have? 12. Okay? All right. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to do the change in momentum. So here we're going to type change in momentum. Now when you hit enter, it's going to be a little bigger. So what you could do is to give yourself a little room is you could click this rectangular bar and just kind of drag this over a little bit like this so you could see the same thing. And we're going to put a formula in there. What is the change in momentum? How did we find that? Do you guys remember? Final momentum minus the initial. So I would say, while this cell is highlighted, I'm going to come over here, okay? And then I'm going to click equals. Which one of these is the final momentum? D3, so I'm going to click D3. Then I'm going to hit the minus key, and then I'm going to click on D2, which is the initial momentum. I'll leave that up there for a second so you guys can see it. Well, you can move up front if you can't see it from back there.
Yeah.
So then when you're done, if you hit enter, I should get, does that seem right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So I'm plugging these numbers in just to check to make sure the formula works. You guys should be plugging in. Why don't you plug in the same numbers I do so we make sure we all have the same answer. Okay. Now that I have those formulas, was there anything else that we calculated? Not yesterday, but today we're going to do something a little different. What I want you guys to do is type in F. I want you to type in kinetic energy. Now, who remembers the formula for kinetic energy?
1/2 mass of velocity squared.
Okay, so we're going to say equals. I'm going to put 0.5, because that's the same as 1/2. Then shift 8, which is the multiplication symbol, the asterisk, times the mass, which is what cell? B2. And the mass is times, so we're going to hit shift, times the velocity, which is C2. Then you have to do the caret symbol, which is shift 6. Okay? And then to square that, you would plug in 2. So you should have this in your formula. Okay? I could probably zoom in a little bit for you guys so you can see it a little better. Does that help in the back? All right. So when you have that, hit enter. Now, I'm going to, now there's some things you could do too, I think. What unit are the masses in what?
Kilograms.
Kilograms, right? So let's just note that so we know what's going on. And our velocity is in meters per second. Our momentum is in the unit kilogram meters per second. Our change of momentum is the same, so I'm going to like copy and paste this. And then I'm going to tack that on here. And then our kinetic energy is measured in, who remembers what kinetic energy is measured in? Joules, thank you. Okay. And then just slide things over accordingly so you can see what you're doing. Because it's important. All right. So I could probably slide this over a little bit. It's the same as momentum. Okay? And that's pretty much it for that one. All right? Now, that's all we're calculating for the red cart. Now, the only other thing is that we want the final kinetic energy. So if I highlight this kinetic energy here and I stretch it down here, that's okay there. Now, the only thing that Mr. Adams doesn't like is I don't like having the, I'm going to switch. I want to shift this kinetic energy tab over here. So what I could do is let's take this and highlight it. Now, the way that you do that is you click and you hold your mouse down and just do that and hit Control X. Control and X at the same time. Then come over here to like H and then hit Control V and see how that pasted it over there. So we cut and paste. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to hit Control X and I'm going to hit Control V and put it right there. And then I have to come back over here and do that again because I'm going to hit Control X and I want to put this here like that. Did anybody have any problems moving that stuff around? Okay. I'll give you guys a second to get that situated. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody need some help? Okay.
My change in momentum, it's in 2 tabs. It's in F and D.
She said her tab, it's in 2 tabs. If you go over to where it is, just slide that over, and then it looks like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, just slide that over like this until you have it,
Okay.
and that'll fix that. Any other questions? Yes.
My kinetic energy, I don't have the 24.
Oh, what you need to do is you go to this formula, and then take that little corner and drag it down. And then it copies the formula, but it does it with these cells instead of the other cells. Okay. Now that's the change in momentum. There's only one other thing that we need, and that is change in kinetic energy. So type in change in, and I'm just going to put capital K, capital E. And so once you get that, and that's going to be in joules, so put joules, capital J. Okay. And you may need to stretch it over a little bit. All right. So now what we're going to do is we need the final kinetic energy minus the initial. So I'm going to hit equals. Which one is the final kinetic energy? E3 minus, hit the minus symbol, and then E2, and then hit return. Now, if I highlight this, this is my formula here, And that's pretty much it, right? There's nothing else to subtract, okay? Now that's all the information for the red cart. But what else do we need? The blue cart. All right. So now before we move forward, I want to show you guys a nifty little trick. I want you to see where the red cart, actually start down here. If you click here and hold the mouse down and drag it, oops, it's kind of hard to do. Or you can hold the shift button and use the arrow keys. You'll highlight the whole thing. Now what color is this? It's a red cart. See this right here? If I click this light red, guess what it will do? Changes it to red. All right. Now we're going to highlight that again. And now if you hit Control X while it's highlighted, or you could go to Edit and hit, not X, Control C. Don't do Control X. Or Copy. Then what we want to do is right underneath it, we can do Control V or Paste. And it'll put it there. Now, do we want a red cart or what do we want to change that to? Blue. So to change the color, first come to the fill color here and come over here and do the light blue color. And then you just click on this little thing and change that word to blue. Okay? Does that make sense? How are we doing so far? Good? All right, we're almost done with our spreadsheet. So now what I want to do, remember we're checking the conservation of momentum. So we're going to say total initial momentum. And that doesn't quite fit, so you have to go up to the top where A is and kind of do one of these deals. Just drag it over. Now, how do we calculate the total initial momentum? What is that? Well, underneath here, I'm going to put the equal sign. So I'm going to say equals the total initial momentum. Isn't that the momentum of the red cart, the initial, this one here, plus this one here? Yeah? So click D2, shift, equal sign, or the plus sign here, plus D5. And then hit enter. Once you have that in, it's enter. And so that is the initial momentum, the total momentum. So that's the momentum of the blue car, the initial momentum of the blue car, and the momentum of the red cart. And if you did the formula right, you should get the number 30. Did you guys get that? And I suppose we should probably check to see if our formulas work. So let's change the cart, the blue cart, change that number to 5 and hit enter. Does it change all the other numbers? Okay. Now, can I do let's do the total final momentum. Now what is that? It's the sum of the final momentum. So in this box here underneath, I'm going to hit my equal sign. And then the final momentum of the red cart, which is this one, D3. Then hit my plus button. And somebody tell me which the next thing I click on. D6, very good. And so you get D3 plus D6, hit enter. That's the total final momentum. Now what do we want to put next? Yep, so we're going to type total change in momentum. And who wants to guess how we calculate that? Yeah, it's the final total momentum, which is B8, minus the initial momentum, which is A8. So you should have equals B8 minus A8. Hit enter.
Wait, what was that?
Equals B8 minus A8. Okay, we're almost done. Next thing we're going to type is total. And I'm going to put KE, which stands for.
Kinetic energy.
And then I'm going to put, but it's got to be the initial. So put in the total kinetic energy. And so that would be equals what? E2 plus E5 you guys can give me a little head nod when you got it right. Okay. Let's hit enter. And then we're going to do total final kinetic energy. And what do I put there? Equals what? E3 plus E6. And then hit enter. And then we want to find total change in kinetic energy, which is what? The final kinetic energy, which is E6 or E8. Hit my minus button. D8. So it should be equals E8 minus D8. Give me a little head nod when you're where I'm at, or a thumbs up will be fine. Hit enter. Look good? Now, I think the other thing that we can do is let's highlight this and we'll make that a color. I don't know, let's make it like a light yellow. Okay? It probably doesn't look the most, you can make it whatever color you want actually, but. So that's the important stuff, okay? Now, if you go to Mr. Adams' website and you go to the physics thing, I want you to go to yesterday's lab activity. So I gotta wait a second for mine to load. It's taking forever. So I think it was day 7, right? So if you go to day 7 and click on activity, and we're gonna come down here to the interactive. Click on that, make it big. I'm gonna make this mass 2. The initial velocity is 3, right? And I'm gonna make this one a mass of 3 and the initial velocity of negative 4. Okay? Now you guys don't have to do this. But I'm gonna write this down real quick. So for my red cart, I've got 3 meters per second, and the mass is 2. And then for my blue cart, don't leave yet, we're almost done. I'm gonna have negative 4 and 3. Now let's collide it. Don't leave, we're almost done. It collides. The only thing that changes is the velocity, which is negative 5.4 and 1.6. Now let's plug that into our formula sheet. So I want you guys to plug yours in too. So my mass on the red cart was 2. My mass on the blue cart was 3. My initial velocity on the red cart was 3. My final velocity was -5. My blue cart, the initial velocity was -4. And then the final velocity was 3. And so my change in momentum was 5. So we're kind of rushed right now. Oh, wait. My final velocity was 5.4 in the red cart, wasn't it? Yeah. My final velocity was -5.4. And then my final velocity here was 0.16. Is that right?
No, 1.6.
Okay. And so if everything works out, our change in momentum should be 0 and our change in kinetic energy should be 0. If you're done, go to lunch. Have a good day.
Bye.